Welcome to Three Pines Studio. I'm Joanne Condino, and this is my studio, and I'm the artist and founder of Three Pines. I have a lot of stories to tell you. I print on tea towels, and of course, tea is the connection to you. But I first have to tell you about wood blocks, because linen and the tea towel is an excuse for my wood blocks. I discovered wood blocks when I was 16, but I grew up hearing stories. My father was born in Italy, and I'm first generation. And he would tell me that during the winter, the men would carve wonderful blocks for printing on statues and other carvings. And what was so very important was seeing the artist's chisel, the artist's mark. And it meant it was by hand and close. And of course, we didn't own any of them. They were all sold at market. But I always remembered those stories. Pier 1 came to the Detroit area, and I went with my mother and brother. And there were barrels and barrels of indigenous work, and there were wood blocks from India. And I went through them, and I found a block that I'll show you later that had the artist's chisel mark. And I couldn't believe that I actually saw the artist's hand. So I didn't have this whole $6 that the block cost, so I borrowed $6 from my brother, which became a serious commitment on my part. I had no idea. He would say, "Let's go to the movies. I'll drive, you can pay for the gas and for the movie." And then it would be, "Do you want ice cream? I'll take you if you pay for the gas and pay for the ice cream." This went on for a few years, and then when he was in his second year of med school, I received a letter. It was around Thanksgiving, and he was telling me he was coming home for Thanksgiving, and what he would like more than anything would be a small bottle of English leather, which was the men's cologne of the time, and he just thought I would provide that for him. And I began thinking, $6. $6. So I wrote him a note next to a nicely packaged English leather that it was $6, not $60,000, and that it was over. Finito. My commitment was over. But my love for the block was never over. I kept looking for them. I found them in garage sales. I found them in flea markets. I would look for them in other cultural stores. Friends would begin giving them to me, and I soon discovered that there was a wonderful ship that was docked in the San Francisco harbor called Cost Plus, which is now, a brick and mortar store, but it was a ship that had all kinds of imports. And a lot of people went to San Francisco in the 60s because it was the place to go, and they would come back with a block, which they didn't have any idea what they were going to do with 40 years later, except gift it to me. So consequently, I have 450 Indian and Pakistani blocks, and I have the very good fortune of having some wonderful Florentine carvings by my friend Filippo Romanali, and I will tell you that story when we go into my studio and I actually use his blocks. Welcome to my studio. This is where I wood block on my linen tea towels. I buy linen by Bolt, and I have local seamstresses sew them for me, and they do an incredible job. But first, I think you need to know something about the tea towel and its history. It was in the late 18th century to the mid-20th century. The tea ceremony of having high tea was very, very important to the British. And their bone china was precious. And what was very important is that it was protected. And it was protected with the linen tea towel. Tea towels also would cover the food to keep flies away, because it was wonderful to have tea outside. And if you dampened the towel and put it over some sandwiches, it would keep them fresh. Decorating the towels became the next step. Women would embroider wonderful stitches. They would make sure their tea towel was better than anyone else's tea towel. It would show off their ability with the needle. And it was a wonderful pastime for women to embroider, have tea, and talk about the happenings of the day in the village. Mass production during the Industrial Revolution made tea towels generally available for everybody. Mass production does that. It makes the cost less, and it made everyone have the ability to have the towel. By the mid-20th century, printed tea towels became very important. There would be a seasonal display of the printed towel on the oven door, in the apron, over the shoulder of a chef or the cook to show the beautiful printed pattern. It was easy to pack gifts and present it. It would also, more importantly, be a very easy gift to travel with. It would be a gift that would not take up room in the suitcase, would not break, would be easy to present to your host. And then in the 50s, 1950s, it became very, very important. If you traveled somewhere, you would have a commemorative tea towel that said Niagara Falls, or it would say Grand Tetons, or San Francisco Bay, or New York City. The tea towel became the vehicle for their history, their travel history. There was a period in time when calendar tea towels were very important. You would have year 1950 displayed on the tea towel and would be possibly with a wonderful wood doll displayed in your kitchen so that you could always know the day and the date. The tea towel kind of changed its title once it hit the States. It became the kitchen towel, or a very vulgar dish towel. And in Italian-American communities, especially those from the South, it was a mappine. Everyone loved their mappine. They would wrap their bread in it to keep it fresh because linen will keep your bread viable. And if you put that bread in paper, you could kill someone the next day with it. If you put it in plastic, you could hang your wallpaper. So having a mappine was very important to the Italian kitchen. Every region in Italy has a name for the linen towel. There are many stories about what mappine can do, but one of my favorite stories is about Van Gogh. When he was pretty down and out and was living in an institution and didn't have money for canvas, linen canvas, he would use the linen tea towels of the institution, which would have checks. He would stretch it and paint on it. What is really very interesting is that this linen canvas tea towel sold at auction for over $2 million in 2000. I will tell you next how I print on them.